Hello and welcome to another episode of Geared Toward Gear. My name is Sean. I'm so glad you're here. If you're a first-time viewer, please do consider subscribing for future content and check the description below for links to my social media accounts. So today we're talking about how to flat pack a SOFTT-Wide tourniquet. So I'm not really going to go into the functionality of the tourniquet. There's tons of great videos already on YouTube on how these tourniquets work, how to apply them, and I don't want to get too much into that because the point is to show you how I flat pack these for EDC carry or just to save room in your kits. The way I do it's a little different than you've probably seen it done before. Tons of people have done videos on this, and maybe other people do it this way too, but I haven't seen it, and it's just my preference for getting a really compact package out of a SOFTT-Wide tourniquet. So I did do a video on tourniquets a couple weeks ago. I did not feature this one specifically because it's functionally very similar to a cat tourniquet. So anyway, if you want to know more about the tourniquet itself, again, there's plenty of great videos that you can check out on YouTube. But today I want to show you, for those of you that own a SOFTT-Wide tourniquet, and these are great tourniquets, how to flat pack it. So a little background, I'm not rearranging, but kind of adding some gear to a lot of my kits. I just added a bunch of cat tourniquets to some of my kits. But I'm going to start EDCing this tourniquet, and by flat packing it, I can do so relatively comfortably. So when they come from the manufacturer, and I've already flat packed it, so I took it kind of back to roughly the dimensions that it would come from the manufacturer. It wouldn't look just like this, but it would be roughly these dimensions, about 2 inches thick. The windlass itself kind of sits on top of the tourniquet, and it's just not very friendly right out of the package to throw in a pocket or to save space in a kit. So I'm going to flat pack this and show you my method for doing so. And at the end, I'm going to give you a pro tip for how to really tighten this thing down into a compact package and let it build up that memory once you get these folds created. So we'll take off the 2 rubber bands that it comes with from the manufacturer, and these are resistant to ultraviolet light. They're not going to crack and wear the same way that a standard rubber band might. And so these are high quality. I guess, you know, some people would call these like a Ranger band, but these are great, and they will keep you know, they'll last a while. So I like that it comes with those 2 rubber bands, and we will need those here in a few minutes once we're done flat packing. So I'll set those off to the side. And here is the SOFTT-Wide tourniquet. If you own one, this video is probably more for you. If you don't, highly recommended. They're great tourniquets. But I'm going to show you how I flat pack these. So the size of the loop is going to really determine how this flat pack turns out. And what ultimately we'll end up with is a loop with about a 28-inch circumference or about a 14-inch diameter, which for me will fit over my leg, my lower limb, all the way up on my thigh. And I'm a pretty big dude. I'm about 6'4", 260 pounds. So it's a good size for a lower limb, and that's how I prefer to stage my tourniquets. If you don't like to stage yours that large, then this may not work for you, but this is my preference, so I just wanted to quickly show you how I do that. So you've got your working end here, your pull tab to cinch down on the loop. And then you have the loop itself that would go around the limb. So the first step in flat packing this is to start at this junction here. And if you're familiar with the SOFTT-Wide tourniquets, you'll know that you can pull this clip out of this loop, and you can wrap it around a limb if you needed to do so. And that's where we're going to start. And this is where a lot of flat pack methods start. So we're going to take that junction right here where the loop interfaces with the hook, and we're just going to fold it in half right at that junction. And so by folding it in half, you're going to end up with something that looks roughly like that. So you'll have that hook just flat on the top. So that's the first step, is to fold it at that junction. The second step is to try to get this working end to be the same length as the loop. And so by laying it flat right now, it's actually pretty close. It's a little short, so I need to make the working end a little longer. So I'm going to pull that slightly, making that loop a little smaller. And now I'm left with a loop and a working end that are roughly the same length. And that's what I'm looking for. So I've got my fold here up at the top. I've got my working end and my loop at roughly the same length, and the windlass is just kind of dangling off the bottom for now, and that's fine. So I'm gonna lay it flat on the table. I'm gonna kind of hold this in place. I'm gonna find where this thicker nylon, which is kind of the base, if you will, of the tourniquet, where that ends is where I'm gonna do a fold. So I've got my working end and my loop. I'm gonna find that end point there, and I'm gonna tightly fold both the working end and the loop in that direction. And so if I kind of flap that over, you'll see what I've done is I've taken that first fold we did there, the working end and the loop, and folded it over on itself. And so now that nylon is essentially in line with the end of the tourniquet there, right? So there's no nylon hanging off the backside. So I've got that pretty taut. Now I'm going to simply take the working end and the loop a second time and fold it back over itself in the opposite direction, which will show me the label with the timestamp, you know, and the manufacturer's information, all that good stuff. And as you can see, by folding it back over itself a second time, my package is in such a fashion that none of the nylon is extending beyond kind of the base of the tourniquet there. So we still have the windlass to deal with. So we've got our folds pretty well done. They're pretty compact and tight, so I'm happy with that. I'll just kind of straighten things out here a little bit. Now the windlass, if I flip this upside down, the windlass, you know, is on a piece of nylon here, and it's obviously designed to twist. And so basically you'll just take the windlass and roll it over to one side or the other, whatever your preference is. So I'm going to take the windlass and roll it over to this side and kind of lay it down. So as you can see, if I can get my hand out of the way and the shadow out of the way, the windlass, which is about 5.5 inches, is kind of my total length there. Maybe just a hair over on this side, but the idea is for this profile here to not be any longer or much longer than the windlass itself. So now I've got the windlass off to the side, so that's going to save me a lot of that depth. And now it's just a matter of securing this in place with the rubber bands. So as you can see, that's a pretty compact package compared to what we started with. So I'm going to take this, make sure everything's still kind of lined up, take one rubber band, go over the label, being sure to capture the windlass, and do a double loop there. So now that is nicely secured on that end. And then this end is still kind of loose, and that's fine. We can kind of mess with it a little bit, adjust things if we need to. But again, as you can see, the nylon here is not extending really beyond the base of the tourniquet or beyond the length of the windlass. So let's just get that figured out there. Take our second rubber band here, go over the loop end, or the working end rather, and be sure to capture the windlass again. And now we've got a flat packed SOFTT-Wide tourniquet that's going to be about an inch, maybe just a little over an inch in width on this end, and maybe just a hair under an inch in width on that end. And that's really mostly accomplished by putting the windlass parallel with the tourniquet as opposed to it sitting on top. So it's a nice compact package. I'm going to take a look at it, kind of pull things tight, maybe adjust the rubber bands a little bit, make sure everything's where I want it to be. And this is where the pro tip comes in, and this is kind of cool. So I've got it where I want it, and I want it to stay this way. I don't really want things to move around. I don't want things to slip out, and I want the nylon to kind of create a memory so that those folds are easy to replicate in the future if I take this out and show it to somebody, or just want to do a quick at home training scenario with it. If I want to get it back into this configuration, I want it to be easy to do so. And the best way that I've found to do that is to take some saran wrap, and this, you may call it plastic wrap or something else where you live, but I'm going to take the tourniquet that's been flat packed and I'm going to set it down on the saran wrap. I'm going to start a wrap over the top, and then I'm going to hold my hand on the saran wrap and I'm going to pull, almost like I'm using a SWAT-T tourniquet. I'm going to pull tension and I'm going to roll. I'm going to pull, roll, and just keep pulling it tight and rolling that tourniquet in the saran wrap until I run out of saran wrap. And I probably used, a couple feet of it. Once I'm done, I'm just going to take the excess on the ends, fold it around the back side, and now I'm left with a very compressed and compact flat folded tourniquet. Now, it's not going to stay this way. You would not want to keep the tourniquet staged inside saran wrap because it's going to be a pain to get to in an emergency. But what I'll do with this is I'll let it sit for 1 week, for 7 days. And that compression that this saran wrap is providing is going to really create that memory in the nylon so that those folds remain intact, so that it's very easy to flat pack should you need to deploy this for training purposes or just to show somebody. Obviously, once you use this on a person, you would want to get rid of it. You'll probably never see it again. But for the initial flat pack, I like to wrap it in saran wrap super tight and just let it sit for a week. I mean, you could even set this between a couple of heavy books if you wanted to, again, just to further compress that nylon. It's not going to damage it. This is very high quality gear, very high quality nylon, so there's no risk there. But by doing this, you're just compressing it and making it ultra compact. And so yeah, that's how I flat pack a SOFTT-Wide tourniquet. Now, if this is your only tourniquet that you own, I would not recommend the saran wrap because you need to have access to it, obviously, if something happens. But if you have multiple tourniquets like I do, or you've got multiple kits and you have the time, I highly recommend wrapping it in saran wrap and letting it sit for 1 week. So that is how I flat pack a SOFTT-Wide tourniquet. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.